I've had 4 terrible years, as most of people know now, and it was horrific. My best quote is, I can say that I would never wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
It was tumultuous, horrific, emotionally draining, traumatic.
For over 6 decades, Sir Cliff Richard has stood as one of Britain's most successful and enduring pop stars, selling millions of records and becoming a household name across generations. Known for hits like Living Doll, We Don't Talk Anymore, and his beloved Christmas chart toppers, Cliff's career has long been in the public eye. Yet his private life has remained shrouded in mystery. Despite numerous high-profile romances and persistent speculation, the singer has never married, a fact that has puzzled fans and fueled tabloid theories for decades. With the recent release of Cliff's memoir and new reflections from his former partners, a clearer picture is finally beginning to emerge. From heartfelt confessions about past loves to revelations about the pressures of fame, we now have a better understanding of why Cliff Richard chose to remain a lifelong bachelor. A career that took priority over love.
Well, we don't sing only rock and roll now. We try to do as many ballads as we can. And
Ça, il a élargi son style.
we've made 7 films, 4 of them are musicals.
Il a tourné 7 films, dont 4 des comédies musicales.
And we've spent quite a lot of the time touring around the world.
Beaucoup de tournées dans le monde entier.
And what else do you want to know? 20 years, we've made lots of records.
Beaucoup de disques naturellement.
And we've been to France about 3 or 4 times.
Oui, il est venu 3 fois en France, mais comme je viens de le dire,
And this
jamais
is my
encore.
first French television show.
C'est ça, c'est la première fois qu'il est à la télévision française.
Sir Cliff Richard's devotion to music wasn't just a career choice, it was a way of life. From the moment he exploded onto the scene in the late 1950s, he was consumed by the demands of fame. Recording, touring, and performing left little time for romantic commitments, a reality he often acknowledged in interviews. In 2003, he explained candidly, "I've been in love, but marriage is a big commitment, and being an artist consumes a great deal of time." This wasn't just lip service. Throughout the years, relationships repeatedly fell apart as he prioritized his work over personal life. One of the earliest examples came in the early 1960s, when Cliff broke off a promising relationship with dancer Delia Wicks. Delia, who would later pass away in 2010, received a heartfelt letter from the young pop star explaining that he couldn't balance the demands of fame with a lasting romance. Quote, "I have showbiz in my blood now, and I would be lost without it," he wrote. It was a crushing blow for Delia, who had dated him for 18 months, and she reportedly remained heartbroken for years. Cliff later said he believed ending things was the kindest path, knowing he couldn't give her the attention and commitment she deserved. In later years, Cliff looked back on other almost relationships with a mixture of fondness and firm resolve. When discussing his time with tennis star Sue Barker, whom he dated in the 1980s, he admitted, quote, "I seriously contemplated asking her to marry me, but in the end, I realized that I didn't love her quite enough to commit to her for the rest of my life." Even when his heart was engaged, his head ultimately made the call. He knew that marriage wasn't something to enter into lightly, especially when his career remained his central focus. These decisions were not always easy. Cliff faced backlash and ridicule for remaining unmarried, with some gossip columns drawing their own conclusions. But his commitment to his music and to his Christian faith often provided a guiding compass. The tension between fame and personal connection defined much of Cliff's life off stage. It wasn't that he didn't want companionship, but rather that the structure of his world left little room for traditional romance. Romantic sparks and sudden endings.
I think my sexuality makes no difference, as it doesn't your sexuality. Anybody's sexuality makes no difference to people who you meet and who like you.
How many people out there know the truth about your sex life? How many people do you trust enough for them to know?
I'd say that I would talk about that too. I can't think of anybody I would have spoken to that directly.
Despite never marrying, Cliff Richard was no stranger to romance. His relationship with Sue Barker is arguably his most well-known, and it captivated the British public in the early 80s. The pair were first introduced after Cliff saw Sue at a celebratory event and was so taken with her that he personally called to invite her to a concert. What followed was a whirlwind of telegrams, long-distance phone calls, and joint appearances at tennis matches. The press quickly took interest, and so did Sue's family, who were reportedly concerned about the 16-year age gap between the two. Though Sue recalled their time together as lighthearted and enjoyable, she was never fully comfortable with the intense media scrutiny that followed. She later described it as crazy and even admitted to feeling suffocated by the constant public attention. While their bond was genuine, Sue came to see their romance as brief and overstated in hindsight. Cliff, on the other hand, continued to speak about her publicly for years, leading Sue to express frustration. In her 2022 memoir, she wrote, quote, "If someone had told me that my relationship with Cliff would last a few months, but I'd still be hearing about it 40 years later, I wouldn't have gone near him." Their breakup, though never explosive, was definitive. Cliff reportedly had a friend call Sue to end things, a detail that suggests an aversion to confrontation in his romantic dealings. They briefly reconnected afterward, but Sue ultimately concluded they were better suited as friends. Cliff, for his part, acknowledged that he had thought about proposing, but couldn't fully commit to the idea. It wasn't just about loving someone, it was about loving them enough to make them a permanent part of his world, and that bar was set high. Another short-lived but meaningful connection came in the form of Jackie Irving, a young dancer Cliff met during a summer in Blackpool in the 1960s. Describing Jackie as utterly beautiful, Cliff recalled their time together as joyful and carefree. Yet even with those fond memories, when faced with the possibility that marriage could damage his career, he didn't hesitate. After being told that getting married could cost him 25 to 30% of his fans, Cliff broke things off. To Piers Morgan, who interviewed him about the decision, it seemed cold. But Cliff defended his choice, saying simply, "It just means I wasn't in love with her." The Olivia Newton-John factor.
Love you, Cliff. Happy birthday.
One of the more bittersweet revelations in Cliff Richard's personal life is his long-standing affection for Olivia Newton-John. The two shared a close friendship and musical partnership that spanned decades. Cliff openly admitted that he had once been in love with her, but missed his chance. Quote, "At the time when I and many of us were in love with Olivia, she was engaged to someone else," he told BBC News. "I'm afraid I lost the chance." There's a wistful tone to how Cliff talks about Olivia. He never claimed they had a romance, but his words have left little doubt about his emotional investment. Their connection was built on mutual respect, faith, and artistry. They recorded music together and remained close throughout their lives. Yet the timing never aligned. By the time Cliff recognized his feelings, Olivia's heart was already elsewhere. Still, his feelings for her lingered. In interviews years later, Cliff would still speak of her with reverence. Her recent passing left him visibly shaken, underscoring the deep emotional ties that remained even in the absence of romance. Faith, friendship, and fulfillment outside marriage.
I sing, I make people laugh sometimes. I'm a fairly nice guy. I do a lot of charitable work. And in the end, the essence of what I am isn't anything to do with my sexuality. It's more to do with my childhood, my relationship with my sisters and my family, the relationship with the people that work with me, my friends. And none of that necessarily, it doesn't have to have a sexual aspect.
While Sir Cliff Richard never walked down the aisle, his life has been far from lonely. A deeply spiritual man, his Christian faith has shaped his view of love, relationships, and purpose. For Cliff, commitment isn't something to take lightly, and that mindset extended to both his music and personal life. He often spoke of how his faith gave him clarity on matters of the heart, encouraging him to look beyond fleeting emotions and consider the long-term implications of every major decision. His lifestyle choices, abstaining from drugs, avoiding scandal, and living modestly despite fame, made him something of a rarity in the entertainment world. He once said, quote, "People who are single shouldn't have to be second-class citizens," a statement that reflects his strong conviction that a fulfilling life doesn't require marriage. Indeed, he surrounded himself with a trusted circle of companions, including longtime friend and manager Bill Latham and American missionary John Macklin, who helped manage his properties and provided companionship during his later years. The public's interest in his bachelor status never fully waned, but Cliff grew more assertive about setting boundaries. When faced with persistent questions about his romantic life or sexuality, he would respond calmly but firmly. In one interview, he said, quote, "Even if I got married tomorrow, there would be a group of people who would believe what they wanted to believe." For Cliff, personal fulfillment came through faith, friendships, and family, not through satisfying public curiosity. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Cliff Richard made the right choice by staying single, or did he miss out on something deeper? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.